Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame football podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noie, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and WNDU's Jackson Neill.
What better way to spend a 79-degree Tuesday afternoon than dusting off the pot of gold for the first time since January?
I think so.
Was it did we do a pre? Yeah, we did a pre-Ohio State one.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
So
we
we
had to
did
make
it-
predictions.
Yes.
Yeah, how'd those predictions turn out?
0 for 3.
I don't remember.
Three homer picks. Notre Dame.
There we go.
He's Jackson Neill. He's Mike Berardino. I'm Tom Noie. And this is indeed the pot of gold for April 29th. We will talk some post-spring practice. Whew. How about all that spring practice we got to see? Is your head still spinning from all those periods of football that we got to see over at the IAC?
You know, I got to be careful how I answer that because I don't, part of me, the curiosity, we'd like to
Right.
see more. But then unless we see the full session, they can easily structure it to just show us
What they want to show
What they
us.
want to show.
Absolutely
So-
nothing.
So I guess it was just about right if we're not going to see more of the full. What did we see? The very first one was full, and then the game itself. We didn't even see a full.
And we saw
April
the
5th.
we saw the quote
The scrimmage.
Jersey scrimmage was
Jersey
wasn't-
scrimmage. We missed the first 5 periods. So
We did.
of stuff, right? Wasn't there? There was a few periods. Anyway, we got a taste.
A little bit.
Got a little taste. So, and speaking of that Ohio State loss, it's been 99 days today
Wow.
since the 2025 National Championship game in Atlanta. And in 124 days, we will be back in Miami Gardens, Florida. Maybe this time without the police escort from the Media Hotel. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami, Notre Dame, Labor Day Sunday night for the 2025 season opener. Like I said, 124 days away. And from now until those 124 days, guess what the topic of number one importance is when it comes to Notre Dame football?
I have
Any
absolutely
guesses?
no idea.
No guesses.
No guesses.
No guesses.
Oh, what's that?
Mike is doing some sort of passing drill.
I think so.
Are you Gino Gaduli over there?
CJ Carr.
Is that the right form?
Oh,
Maybe that's
there's a
foreshadowing a prediction later.
A little prediction coming later in the show. Of course, we buried the lead because Notre Dame opened spring practice in March.
Yeah, middle.
Was it March? I'm telling you, with the National Championship game in January and the run that we were on as far as New Orleans, Miami Gardens, Atlanta, January was gone. February was spent watching bad basketball. Sorry. March was spent watching more bad basketball. Jackson and I were in Birmingham, Alabama.
Not for very long.
How was that trip to Birmingham, by the way?
Pretty short.
Good.
Pretty
It was a
short.
Good visit, right?
It was pretty quickly just back on Southwest trying to get the flight back home.
It was a quick trip, and it was a worthless trip.
Not really memorable.
So so by the time spring practice rolled around, you're like, wait, what is it? March? What happened to February and March? So they started spring practice in March with 3 quarterbacks, and they ended spring practice 1 week ago. Tomorrow was their 14th and final practice. They did not practice 15 times as per standard. They practiced 12 times. Was the Blue Gold game the 12th practice, I believe? Yeah, that was the 12th practice. They had 2 more after that. And so they start spring practice with 3 quarterbacks. They exit spring practice with 2 quarterbacks. Steve Angeli, nice knowing you. 4 springs as a backup quarterback at Notre Dame, decides, you know what? Week after, or with a week left to go in spring, I'm out of here. So Steve Angeli, transfer portal, lands in Syracuse. Bright side, the senior day game, November 22nd, just got a whole lot more interesting with Steve Angeli coming back.
Yes, it did. I really liked that move, honestly, for him. That was kind of that was actually one of the schools I was kind of thinking he could go, maybe them or Rutgers, something along that line. But East Coast guy going back to the East Coast made sense to me, but still just surprised that he was the odd man out.
Not just to the East Coast, but to a place where there's a Campanelli, and they're scattered around. But he was coached at at Bergen Catholic by Vito Campanelli, and now he gets to go have his quarterback coach and offensive, assistant head coach, Nunzio Campanelli, with Syracuse, and Fran Brown, who's got great recruiting roots in the Jersey area, and they all know him there. So there's a fit, there's a comfort, and Angeli, remember when Notre Dame played at Syracuse back in the Drew Pine era, took the final handful of snaps to close that one out, just kneel downs. It'll be a little different when he comes here if he is the guy and healthy and everything is on path. But I just want to go back to the way you presented that, Tom, because we really don't know precisely yet how that conversation may have gone. But my sense would be, based on how Marcus Freeman addressed the he put it out there himself after the blue gold game, right. Three's really hard to make a decision.
Three's a crowd, I want two.
Yes. And so I think they did right by Steve Angeli by letting him know, unlike many other programs who would like to say, we'll just hold on to him because if we have him, they don't.
Yep.
Whoever they are. And as it turns out, their honesty, if that's how it really went down, I think it did. I sense that because Angeli wasn't going to run from a scrap. He had other opportunities the last couple of years if he really wanted to bail. But I think they looked at all the evidence, all the data points, and of course where they were in their career timelines. They felt good enough about Minchie and Carr at this stage, and Carr's elbow, which was such an issue last fall where he couldn't run the scout team anymore for months, that they, I suppose, it was a little bit of a brutal honesty. If we had to make a choice right now, you're not the guy. And so he took that and probably said, thank you for your honesty, and I'm going to Syracuse.
Or there could have not been any conversation, and Steve Angeli, being the smart guy that he is, just kind of read the room and said, Steve Angeli didn't win the job as the Notre Dame starting quarterback in spring, but he didn't lose it. Mm-hmm. He was just kind of there from the practice observations and the blue goal game that we saw. It wasn't like you looked at Steve Angeli and said, he's got it. It's his job. They're done.
I have another theory on that. One thing that stuck out about it because we only got to talk to Angeli one time during the spring, and all the three quarterbacks that same day. But do you remember how we all went up to him? We all known him since January of 22, and he introduced himself to us.
Did you read my column?
Yeah,
that was what my column was.
Wasn't that odd? Wasn't that? Talk about that then. How maybe in retrospect, now that we know how it all played out, maybe that conversation had already happened, and it was like, if we had to make a choice today based on where everybody is, you're going to have to beat them out in this spring, just so you know, because he had a bit of a deer in the headlights look that I'd never seen from him.
And
in spring?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, downstairs.
Where we're talking to him.
Yeah, downstairs.
He was in a fog.
Was he? He was super quiet for art.
Not him, right?
Yes.
A different guy.
It was,
did he introduce?
He did not introduce himself to us, but I remember that day having to boost the microphone levels up because he was just super quiet, and did not seem that confident, honestly. I don't know if that's the word.
He had been maybe taken down a notch. Yeah. His head was spinning, and that kind of thing is, I'm Steve. That's the thing you do when you've already transferred somewhere.
Right. He's introducing himself to the Syracuse media.
Practicing for that.
It was just odd because he's got enough times where we've all had our little back and forths with him, and inside there are a few things to joke about. We saw him after the Orange Bowl. He was right. He was brought in and lauded for that work, that drive, the most heralded field goal ending drive in history. But and very important. But he did take a couple sacks on that and held the ball and got him down the field though. But if Mitch Jeter misses that one, as he missed other ones along the way, made the big one at the end of that game. But if he doesn't make it, how's that conversation even going? Anyway, that's
well. When we talked with Steve Angeli that day, I just flat out asked him. I said, "What makes you believe that you should be the starting quarterback at the University of Notre Dame?" And he said, "I put in a lot of work. I think I've been a great teammate throughout my years here. Not that I deserve this right now. I'm working toward it. I still have to earn it. It's a great opportunity. I'm just looking to seize the moment." Yeah. And then 2, 3, maybe 3 weeks later, he's out the door. Yep. And again, maybe he just got the sense that I know where this is going. They really like C.J. Carr and his ability to make plays happen. They really like Kenny Minchey. And I'll be the first one to admit, I have not given Kenny Minchey any credit for doing what he's about to do, and that's challenged to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, because every time they brought in a quarterback, or they brought in the quarterbacks, it's Sam Hartman, Steve Angeli, this guy, Kenny Minchey. I'm talking to Sam Hartman. Then it's Riley Leonard, Steve Angeli, C.J. Carr, Kenny Minchey. I'm talking to Riley Leonard. I have not talked to Kenny Minchey, because every time you look at Kenny Minchey, you're like, honestly, is he really going to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Guess what? In 124 days, Kenny Minchey may be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame.
Real possibility right there. I mean, I think it just comes down to, from what I could tell, I think the spring game was just showed it off perfectly. Carr has the best arm. Minchey can run the ball the best. When you want a quarterback, especially to win a national title, which Notre Dame is trying to do, you need to have a quarterback that's great at one of those things, or you hope for a quarterback that's great at one of those things. Angeli was at best second in both those categories. And I think that's why he kind of, that was the odd man out.
A couple things that have jumped out. I think Gino Gaduli has believed in Minchey since he got a hold of him. And it was Tommy Rees who brought Minchey in here. He had flipped him from a Pittsburgh commitment late in that cycle in November. I mean, he came up for senior day, I think. But, or the first game early in November that year. But Gino's liked him ever since he's had him. He's used words like gunslinger early on, and I wrote about that. I keep writing about Minchey because Tom takes the big guys.
I take the big guys, and you're like, I'll take the guy that I'll take the guy that's got to beat the odds.
This Minchey's from the beginning, maturity, carries himself like he's unflappable. Even when he first got here, he really connected with Hartman. They would razz him as the youngest guy in the room, but he handled it just fine. He's had to overcome his own throwing arm issues. It was a shoulder thing that kept him out for half of his senior year while he was sitting on a Pittsburgh commitment back at Pope John Paul II. Got to go back several popes now. And
not the seventh, the second.
R.I.P. Pope Francis, but who was great. But never met him. Never met any pope. You guys ever meet a pope?
That's not in the script, Mike.
Yeah,
if you could only meet one pope.
Where was this on the rundown?
Anyway, so
how about Edwin Pope?
So I have.
There you go. You have met a pope.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And he answered my letter to him when I was 12. But an R.I.P. Edwin Pope. I'd say that Kenny Minchey. The other thing Gino brought up at the start of spring practice was that Minchey's the one guy who had the practice script memorized better than the other guys as they leave the building. If they had a typo, they left a line out, kind of like Tom lays it out for us. He actually read it, unlike me. Minchey would read it, and the other guys kind of glanced at it, and Minchey would be the one saying, "Hey, Gino, I think you left out play 37 from the practice." And he brought that up to us to show that he had a complete mastery. And he just had an eye for detail, and detail is going to make such a difference in this whole process. I think C.J. Carr's right there with him on these things, but Minchey's a year ahead of him in this whole college football thing. So I think they're in. One of the ways this could have gone was to the safe play. Probably was to just say, well, we've seen Steve Angeli. He won a bowl game. He came through in the playoff. He's probably the starter, and then Carr's eventually going to take over, and then. You do that, you lose Minchey.
True.
Yes.
But to go into that atmosphere, now you weren't there when they played there previously, right?
It's often a dead atmosphere.
No, it is often a dead atmosphere, but when Miami and Notre Dame played, I forget what
they got lit up, 17.
That place was just an absolute bananas circus.
Miami was Notre Dame was top 5.
Miami had the turnover chain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a type of atmosphere because I think many down in South Florida believe Miami can be like an Indiana or like a Notre Dame this year and make a playoff run. That's an opening game. To go into that game and not have your starting quarterback ever make a start, man, that's a big ask. If it's Kenny Minchey, if it's C.J. Carr, I don't know.
But we've seen Freeman be okay with doing things. I mean, I know left tackle's different, but it's still a very important position. I'm just thinking Anthony Knapp last year. You're asking a true freshman left tackle to go up against a Texas A&M D-line in front of 100,000 plus.
And Sam Pendleton at left guard, a redshirt freshman.
Exactly. It's like we've seen Freeman do this before. I understand what you're saying, Tom, but it seems like when in doubt, it's about what's your upside, what's your talent, not what can you do for me, not what have you done when it comes to Marcus Freeman and these coaching decisions.
If you had your choice, would you rather go to Texas A&M and have to go with Anthony Knapp as your left tackle or C.J. Carr as your starting quarterback? I'd go with Anthony Knapp.
Miami's not Texas A&M.
I know. I'm talking about last year.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that was a big spot.
This will be a big spot.
Yeah.
It'll be big. It may not be as big as Texas A&M because I don't know how many more atmospheres we're going to see that we saw last year, but. Oof.
And then meanwhile, Carson Beck has, we'll talk about him in August, but the Cavender twins.
Be careful, Mike.
Running him down.
How's that working out?
Carson Beck is.
How's that working?
He's
out?
losing some street cred. If that's it's not a term anymore?
People do kind of say that.
What is the new term for street cred? What do you got?
Aura. That's something people talk about.
Aura, really?
Yeah, that's a thing people say.
I knew why we have Jackson.
There we go.
To keep
his
us
aura
young
has
and
been
relevant.
diminished.
Yeah, he's lost some aura with his latest.
He's become mid.
Yeah,
in the club scene.
Yeah, I think
the club.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Tom.
They go to clubs in Miami? Do they have clubs in there? Really? All right, let's end with this with a quarterback segment. Let's end with this. If the season started today and not 124 days from now, Notre Dame starting quarterback against Miami will be Jackson.
C.J. Carr.
Mike.
C.J. Carr for the first of 4 years.
Wow, he's going to play 4 years.
We're going to get to know him well.
Is he a good
3
interview?
or 4? I think so.
Is he?
No, you haven't. Yeah, you've been over there with the transfers.
I do the transfer guy. I do the main guy. I let the other guy.
C.J. Carr, very direct and very mature as well. A lot of things I said about Minchie, he's just a year behind on his curve. But the talent upside, the passing especially, the window 2 throws to the tight ends.
Those were ridiculous. Like did we see Riley Leonard make a throw like that last year?
No.
I can't remember offhand.
Maybe
1 or 2.
Maybe USC there was a tight window. Maybe Louisville he slung it around a little bit. But those were not. That was Bauman and Larson too. I mean that wasn't even Michael Mayer or something. those are good solid options, but haven't done it really. And he put it right there, and that's what you got to do.
I'll go 3 for 3. I'll say C.J. Carr, and maybe. Who knows? Kenny Minchie.
I wrote today. It's online there, and about the idea of replacing the Riley Leonard run threat. None of these guys even, and we haven't mentioned Blake Hebert. He's got some future upside for sure. They like him.
Blake Hebert,
but he's not in this mix.
He's way
Buckner?
over
But when
What
we
about
say
Buckner?
they have quarterback, and Anthony Rizak runs the scout team very well, and is going to hold. It looks like Anthony Rizak's going to have some pressure. He seems to be the number 1 holder out of the spring game because Salerno's gone and Dylan DeVisen's over there, and anyway, he'd screw up a hold, we'll all be writing about him. So he doesn't want that. So it's I forgot where I was going there, but it was a good point.
I don't know.
We'll
You had
move
Blake
on.
Hebert. You were talking about Blake Hebert.
What was I saying before
His
that?
7-on-7 snaps.
It doesn't matter. But it's 4 months from now, and they got plenty of time to make it work out. But I was writing in. It does matter because it's online. It's at ndinsider.com. Just looking at the run, you mentioned that what we've seen of Minchie, he does seem to, he's good on rollouts and he's got a little maneuverability, but he didn't really run a whole lot in high school. They had a passing offense in high school. I think he only averaged like 2.8 yards a rush. So maybe they were counting he was getting sacked a lot. I don't know all the details. He was hurt the last year, but it's not like he was doing the 7 yards a clip that we saw from Riley Leonard. And what an advantage that was to have a guy 3rd and 4th downs, goal line situations. You can outnumber him. Basically, it was the Wildcat. Don't be surprised if we see the actual Wildcat this year sometimes. Direct snaps to Love, and you've achieved some of the same things that you're looking for. Maybe the direct snap is to, we've seen it with Payne in the past. I don't know that he gets all the way up there. Aeneas Williams could do that very nicely, too. And then you've outnumbered him with the hat on hat. More hats than they have with all the hats.
Yes.
It's all about hats.
Hats.
All right, let's go quick hitters. Relatively quick hitters. Coming out of spring practice, Jackson, biggest surprise.
I mean, I know we just talked about it, but it has to be Angeli, right? Like and I thought he was going to be the guy that he was going to start the season. So for me, seeing when I saw that he was transferring, that shocked me.
Shocker! It was a shocker.
That was a shocker to me. I thought he was just how much experience he had. I thought he was going to be the guy that was going to kind of be the safe choice to start the season. We would see Carr later in the year.
Mike, biggest surprise of spring?
The whole spring. This was Elijah Burris maybe that was not just making some plays, but repeatedly, and one of the touchdown that ended the Carr touchdown pass that ended the penultimate Saturday.
After he had some drops that day.
Yes,
too.
but Burris did. Yeah, we had noted some drops, but he came through there, and then he came through again some in the spring game. A lot of good talk about him. His teammates know he definitely won some cred in the wide receiver room, which is hard to do because he just got here. But the bloodlines are clutch, and we'll see if he can continue that. So I don't know. That jumped out at me. I didn't expect that so quickly.
My biggest surprise when I looked out on a practice field at the defense and I looked at this guy and said, "Who is that guy?" And went right to my roster because he didn't play much last year. Didn't really play at all last year, and that would be Tay Johnson, number 16, defensive back, 6'2", 193 pounds, freshman from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's long, he's lanky, and he looks like he's Leonard Moore's twin brother out there. And so I don't know where he fits. Let's see where he's going to fit in Chris Ash's defense. But for a guy that we really didn't give the time of day last year to, and rightfully so in that defense, Tay Johnson's going to have a spot. Now, is it going to be like Leonard Moore did last season? That remains to be seen. But when I saw Tay Johnson in spring, I said, keep an eye on that guy. So surprises. Those are surprises. Let's go to the other side of the coin. Mike, we'll start with you. Biggest concern in spring?
Well, I also see that we're going to talk about the positions that we're worried about. But biggest, I don't want to single out an individual, but in general terms, you lose on the interior defensive line. You lose Cross and Mills after all those snaps of all those years. And yes, there's talent there, but they rotate so much there. You need 3 waves to come at them in a full game, in a full season. You're talking about Gabe Rubio maybe being a starter. I think he can do that part, but the depth is a concern. And they brought in guys from Louisville and USC, and Sevillano is going into his second year, but there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions there, and so that would be a concern. That'll also, you don't have to come back to me for position in shaky shape because I'm going defensive tackle.
Shaky already, huh?
Well, it says right here.
I know, defensive
tackle,
shaky. You're not sold on Jason Anye and Donovan Heinisch.
I think Anye and
Jared
Heinisch
Dawson.
No, we haven't seen enough from Dawson,
right.
And I'm not expecting much from Hughes. He's going to have to prove it because he didn't do much at USC.
Mm-hmm. Jackson?
I agree with that.
Concern? What's your concern?
I agree with that. That's
Get your own concern.
That was one of the ones I had written down, but I wrote down a couple because I knew you'd probably steal something.
Stay away. That's Mike's.
That's all I got.
Are we sure there's a consistently reliable tight end in the passing game on the roster right now for a young QB?
No.
That's, I think, a question I would have. With a young quarterback, it's nice to have those tight ends that are just reliable. You can go to.
You've got to have a security blanket. If it's 3rd and 8 and you're scrambling, oh, wait, I'm going to find this guy.
And I don't know if there's someone. Is there someone like that on the roster? I don't know.
A lot of happy talk. A lot of happy talk from Denbrock and others about Reardon, but he's going to have to. He's going to have to prove it.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Drops have been an issue in the past.
He's looked good. Great. He looked good in the spring game. Let's see him look good against Miami of Florida.
Interested to see when Flanagan, the other Flanagan, gets here. Cooper Flanagan, unfortunately, he would have been, I think, the guy, the number 1 target, but he's out probably till November. You keep hearing, but if Jim Flanagan's boy can come in here and be what he was on paper out of high school, apparently, he's really good at hockey as well. They're not going to ask him to do that, but great athlete. And there'll be opportunities, because you're right. I mean, Carr already showed he's going to look for that guy in a place where you're not generally looking for him. That was that play that actually Reardon has scored touchdowns on twice last year, in each corner of the end zone. But they like that play, and that's a good call, Jackson. It's got to prove it to me. I have no doubt about Eli's blocking. We don't know if Kevin Bauman, if you're asking Kevin Bauman to stay healthy for a whole season, you're asking a lot there, too.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
Yep.
My biggest concern, you lose Riley Mills, you lose Howard Cross, you lose Xavier Watts, you lose Jack Kaiser, and you lose Al Golden. My concern is defensively, what is this team going to be like? Like, there's experience coming back with Adon Schuler, with Drake Bowen. What's Chris Ash going to be like as a defensive coordinator? We have no idea. We have no idea what this defense is gonna look like, what it's gonna play like. Like that defense last season, they had been under Al Golden for so long that it could just coach itself. It knew what was going on, especially when you had guys like Jack Kaiser and Riley Mills and Xavier Watts. Like you had a lot of experience back there throughout all three levels. Who are going to be the experienced guys, and is Chris Ash? Are they going to hit the ground running with Chris Ash right away? They better.
Seems to be more collaborative, though. That's the term you keep hearing, and I think Freeman will have more of a view of the game planning week to week. They're just kind of overseeing it, not calling it on the game day. Ash has done that in the past very well, but not since 2020 at Texas. That was just a one-off there, and of course before that, a head coach at Rutgers, and before that, Ohio State with a national champion co-defensive coordinator. But the best thing he did, I think, guys, is that he came in here and said, I'm not looking to really change anything. You got a great thing. It's going to look more of like what you had, but yeah, without some of these guys who just went to the NFL.
You know what? Al Golden said the same exact thing when he walked in here from the Cincinnati Bengals after that Super Bowl trip. He's like, you got a good defense here. I'm not looking to change anything.
Yeah.
All right, first year, don't change anything. Then eventually put your stamp on that defense. Chris Ash will probably do the same thing.
Yeah, the ball disruption, I think we still saw that drill. That's smart to keep that drill, but will it be a daily emphasis all the way through the season? Because that was the hallmark of that defense, was they caused disruption. They got the ball out. They eventually became incredible with takeaways, best in the country. More zone. They were trying out some zone, and that's interesting because, as we went into the Ohio State game, and incredibly, they telegraphed that the players, Mike Mickens, everybody telegraphed that man team. We're not going to change it. Dance with what got us here. And I think they will. And I wrote about that. Marcus Freeman talking about it. Chris Ash and the players talking about how odd it is to try to master both, so they still have a wrinkle. They're going to need some wrinkles with the drop down in proven talent. There's talent. There may eventually be even more upside to some of these guys that we're talking about already and haven't mentioned. Jalen Snead may be ready to take a step to the point where he's blowing people away. KVA is ready to take another step, it would appear. Maybe Madden Faremo by midpoint is just an unstoppable force. I mean, they got a lot of talent. But, yes, the guy at the top of that, the guy making the defensive signals, is no longer Al Golden.
I'll do my position in shaky shape. Say that.
It's hard to say.
Shaky shape.
It's easy to write. It's hard to say. Who did this outline? Jeez, what the hell is going on? Oh, it was me. Position. It's not a position per se, but the area that's, I believe, in shaky shape as we move toward 2025. Who are the captains on this team?
Yeah. Leadership.
Like the leadership. Where's the leadership come from? Like last year, Riley Mills, Riley Leonard, Jack Kaiser, Xavier Watts, Benjamin Morrison. You had dudes that were leaders. Could you look out there and point out 5 guys that could be captains?
Don Schuler.
He's a given.
Yeah. He's going to be. And I loved his answer. He wants it. He said, I want to be, when you think of Notre Dame football, I want you to think of me. I want to be that guy. Not in a brash way at all, but in terms of the setting a standard and accountability and all that. Hell, he's ready for that.
He's
even
just
though
a confident guy.
It's just his third year, and he's got a lot of important, and he proved it last year. But you raise a good point. I mean, those weren't just, good leaders. Those were like
those were all-time
generational kind of guys. No matter what they do, any boardroom they go in down the road, in the NFL, they'll be future NFL. They just had complete
ownership.
They
had ownership of that program. Like you had guys that had been around, that had struggled, that had success, ups, downs, left, right. Like you could count on those 5 guys, and then even throw Howard Cross in there.
Yeah.
Best thing you could say about last year's team, in terms of another way to look at that, they had such good leaders that when Here Come the Irish showed all the people that walked up there to be considered as captains. They had like 16 guys go up there. And some of the guys who were passed over, didn't make it. Pat Coogan, Spindler, Bo Collins. We heard from him a lot, but he just got here. Jordan Clark, I don't think walked up there to put himself out there, but he had leadership qualities. No doubt there were people who couldn't make the cut for whatever reason. They just got here, or there just were so many. It was an abundance, and so they went with 5, and 4 of them were on defense last year, and then Leonard goes. So it'll be interesting. Will they be able to make a quarterback? Will they settle the quarterback thing in time? Generally, it's kind of aligned, but you're not going to go, even if it's either one. I don't think they're going to be named a captain. So you're going to be without a quarter. And the last time was Jack Cohn's year. He was not a captain. And, still
which turned out all right.
Worked just fine.
It was okay.
But you're not going to force that.
You can't.
So they're gonna have a team where you'll probably get offensive linemen back. Emil Wagner's going to be a captain. He carries himself that way.
So you got Emil Wagner, you got a Don Schuler.
Yeah,
maybe Drake Bowen.
I was thinking
got a shot.
Bowen,
Raridan's got a shot. Drake Bowen is now year 3, but year 2 as an actual. Well, he's got a real shot. But you'd like to have these be 4th-year guys.
You would.
That's preferable.
So that's a shaky shape position. Let's go best shape.
Jaden Greathouse, as you've written too, he's got that kind of air about him. But again, another third year guy.
A lot of young old guys.
Yeah.
Best shape, Jackson. Where are you going?
Has to be running backs. I think this could be.
I thought you were going to say has to be quarterback.
Oh, it has to be quarterback. No, running backs. I mean, you could.
Right.
Could this be the best running back room in the country? I mean, top end talent like Jeremiah Love, just the rest of the depth right behind him. I really don't think. What are you missing in this running back room? If you could add something, what would you want that you don't already have here?
It's hard to say because this is it'll be a different running back room this year without Dylan McCullough, who wanted and had to have 5 guys because he had his job board up in his office. I've got this
third down
guy.
certificates.
Yeah, here I've got this. He's going to do this. He's going to do that.
Yeah.
And Jaywan Snyder is maybe 3 guys.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of Jeremiah Love. It's going to be a lot of Jadarian Price. And probably a lot of Aeneas Williams.
I mean,
but that's it.
But still, though, like that's Jeremiah Love. I mean, we'll probably talk about this later, but that's like a 1st-round pick type of talent. Price is.
You got your mock draft already done?
I don't know. I was looking into how high could Love go next year. It's pretty high if he has the right season.
I saw one mock today where I believe he was the 15th pick.
I might have seen the same one. I was like 15 or 16.
To the Dallas Cowboys.
Another had him to the Bears at 16. But
I think that's the one I saw.
We don't know where.
Yeah, but basically, when you think about this running back room, it's a top end talent. Jadarian Price would be a number 1 guy on most teams, a lot of teams around the country. Aeneas Williams is what you look for in a 3rd down back, and now had a ton of experience coming back after that run last year. If you want to go down further, there's still even a little more talent. This is the running backs room where it has everything you need for it to kind of be the backbone of the team, the backbone of the offense.
Running back, what about you?
Linebacker. Loaded at linebacker.
2 loaded.
Loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Preston Zinner's a really good linebacker.
Yes.
He can't get on the field. In
Bodie
every down
Cahoon
situation.
has flashed. We're not gonna see him much. Teddy Rizak, we never even talk about. If he'd stayed at Nebraska, he might. Who knows? He might be starting. It's an abundance. Max Bulla coaches him up great. Gets him to run through a wall. It makes media want to run through a wall. With that intensity.
He does.
I love those interviews.
He's great.
He's
great at that. He's going to be a coordinator someday. But Jaden Osbury. You wrote about him down at the Sugar Bowl. Jaden Osbury is a guy who's been overlooked largely. It's been hard to get on the field. Well, he's going to get a little bit more of a chance now, but only so many snaps to go around. Kaiser going to go off and have a nice NFL career. Going to play for 10 years, I think, but if not 15. But they'll be just fine in the linebacker room.
15 year. Who
At a lot.
Who that plays for 15?
After 6 seasons, was it 6 seasons in college?
Yeah, 6 seasons. Isn't he like 32 years
He's
old?
going to play till he's 39.
So he's what, 7 seasons?
And then he's going to go right. His final year he'll be a linebacker / coordinator.
Yeah, that's what I could.
/ accountant.
That's right.
He'll still be taking
All
graduate classes.
14 years.
14 years.
14-year
for Jack
crew.
Kaiser.
Okay.
All for the Jaguars.
Wow.
Oh, I hope for him that's not the case.
Yeah.
The
No, he'll come back to Indianapolis at some point. That'd be great.
That would be nice. Jackson took running back. Mike takes linebackers. I'm going to take safeties. We talked about it down. Don Schuler, Jadon Blair. You look at the depth of that room. Jalen Strowman, we didn't even get to see much of him at all in spring practice, and he's going to be a guy that's going to step in and play. And they looked at Kennedy Urlacher looked at the depth chart and safety and said, "That's it. I'm out of here." He goes to USC because he doesn't fit the profile of what the safety has become. You look at Jadon Blair, 6'5", 204. Don Schuler, 6 foot 198, but hits like a truck. Kennedy Urlacher, maybe 5'10". So he winds up going to USC. I think they lose Xavier Watts, and they lose a guy who was, a two-time All-American and the National Defensive Player of the Year. I think safety, they're sitting okay back there for 2025.
Watts, I know what I just said about the linebackers post Kaiser. I think it'll be tougher for those guys with the limited. And Talich is going to get Luke Talich is going to get some looks. He'll be, he obviously has earned some trust, and is a big dude. But Watts was just so vital in getting them lined up for 2 straight years, and just so few breakdowns. That play against Northern Illinois, the little short pass that went for the 80-yard touchdown. How many times did that happen? They just didn't. They didn't. They didn't leave the middle of the field. The other time it happened was the big run against Ohio State.
Oh
yeah. So that means
Junkins, right?
Those would just shock value plays. Whereas other programs, they might happen every other week, and you just work around it. I think there may, with the inexperience, there may be some more of that, but that's where Schuler has to get them lined up.
Anything else post-spring jump out at you as far as the depth chart? Like, I didn't expect that guy or this position or whatever it might be.
I'm going to say, you were talking about safeties right there. I just want to say, Luke Talich really looks super physical. That hit in the spring game, I just stays in my mind. Goal line hit against Aeneas, a very physical running back, and he just absolutely laid him out. Yeah, that kind of helped show me too, just the depth of that safety room with players like that, hitting like that.
Luke Talich, 6'4", 213.
Yeah, man, he's
as a strong safety.
That hit was, I was not expecting hits like that in the spring game, and that was like a midseason hit right there.
I'm going to throw Carson Hobbs out there. We haven't talked about him yet.
Not.
A year ago, when we talked a lot about Schuler, but it was supposed to be Rod Hurd.
Yes.
Brought in to be that guy, paired with Watts, and Schuler was just so good. I remember being a little surprised that they're talking about it as a they were sharing reps. We saw that a little bit early in August, and then Schuler goes on and it's his spot. Wouldn't shock me. I know Devontae Smith, comes from Alabama, and Alabama's guys, everybody's great at Alabama. I almost started sounding like Mel Kiper there, but I stopped myself.
Here it comes.
But
Sure.
Please. And but would not be shocking based on the way Carson Hobbs talks the game, the way he seems to play the game when we get to look at him, and of course, from the Cincinnati area, the top level of plays, he's used to this kind of stuff, and speed of the game, he seems to be just fine with it. So any slippage at all for Smith, or if they actually have it be a full battle for that all-important slot. It keeps going to the most experienced candidate, but wouldn't it be great if one of these years it's the young guy who they can grow with him?
Carson Hobbs just looks like a guy that you got to find a place to get on the field somewhere.
Yeah.
Just wherever it is going to be. Like if it's at the expense of Devontae Smith's reps at nickel, maybe. But Carson Hobbs looks like he's got to play. He's not going to play a corner. We got those two corners. Yeah. Those two corners have those spots locked down this year, especially Leonard Moore. So we'll see what happens with Carson Hobbs. If there's one position that I went into spring thinking, I don't know, let's see, and then I leave spring and say, I don't know, we still have to see. I'd say it's still wide receiver.
Yeah,
you've got Jaden Greathouse, and Jaden Greathouse said, one thing people are going to find out about me this year is I'm going to become a monster at wide receiver. Hopefully he can bottle what he did the last 2 games and carry that over for an entire season. But outside of Jaden Greathouse, we didn't see much of Jordan Faison because he had lacrosse. We didn't see Malachi Fields, who's going to basically parachute in the summer and become an instant starter. Maybe he becomes Bo Collins.
Oh, I think
2.0.
More than that. They should be more than that because
He
he had the
should.
same season. I know Virginia generally would be buried in those games, but he had the same incredibly similar stats for 2 straight years. We'll see, when we finally get a chance to speak with him. But that when we talk about it was the same year. It's back-to-back years. And so and he's going to get opportunity here. And so, that's that one I feel pretty confident that they nailed that one.
Yeah, because just needing that one wide receiver, that big number one guy, that just guy that's reliable
Just screaming for him. Like,
yeah,
come to Notre Dame. You be a 6'4" guy.
A 6 foot.
You can catch 55 passes and
You're
off
just
you go.
Exactly. That's just every receiver feels like we talk about. It's like it's not that prototypical size, that prototypical just big receiver, and I think they just need that. If Notre Dame can find that would really transform the offense, I think.
You know what you need right now?
What's that?
Besides this dirty sock over here in the corner.
The other one?
Sorry, yeah.
Camera
the other
over
one.
there. Can we get a?
Can we get a camera over there? Sorry, I digress. Where were we? How about a question? Would you like a question?
I'd love a
A
question.
little fan question?
Yeah.
From Brian Sanchi, Batavia, Illinois, longtime listener, longtime reader. He wants to know, Ohio State has now ripped off 7 straight wins against Notre Dame. What must be done to get the Irish to plant their flag on the mountaintop? Is it as simple as better athletic talent at all positions? Is it play calling at certain key moments in games? Please help me understand. So, gentlemen, what do they need? What does Notre Dame need to do to not only topple a program like Ohio State, but win a national championship?
Just keep knocking on the door. Just keep knocking. One of these years, the matchups just keep getting in that 12-team field, and then eventually the 14, the 16, just become a perennial member of that thing. And then often in those cases, the breakthrough is in the year you weren't expecting it. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is the year. You just don't
like
know.
Last
so
year.
much.
Yeah,
so much has to go right for a team to win a national championship. Did anyone think that Ohio State was going to be crowned the national champion after they lost at Oregon and then had the no-show against Michigan at the end of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, yeah, Ohio State, they're done. And then all of a sudden they hit another gear. Nobody expected Notre Dame after that Northern Illinois game. I wrote it. Like, don't even think about the playoffs. Playoffs are the furthest thing from your mind right now. You just have to go and win every game and then find out where you are at the end. But so many things have to come together at the right time, at the right place, at the right moment to win a national championship in any sport.
Yeah, but what I think what he mentioned in his question there though is right, is the high end talent. I mean, we have it written down here, Tom, not to get too far outside of your rundown.
Oh, you're gonna steal from me.
I'm gonna
steal from my notes.
Steal from your own notes.
Look at Mike. He's like, he has no idea what we're talking about.
Fell asleep before we got to that. It's the second page.
All right,
zero first round picks.
Right.
And it's the high end talent.
Zero first round picks for Notre Dame in the NFL draft in 4 of the last 6 years.
Exactly. And it's in college football.
But there's clearly first-round talent on this current roster.
And that's what I'm exactly.
Yes. Okay, but 0 first round picks this year. What did the next line say?
The next line, Ohio State had 4 first rounders in 2025.
If you need pros, if you're going to win a national championship, you need pros.
You either need the pros along the roster or just a Heisman game-changing quarterback. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to make up if you don't have that talent all over the roster. So for Notre Dame to beat Ohio State, to switch that advantage, to win a national championship, you need either or C.J. Carr to become Heisman Trophy winning, fills up all the holes himself, all-time college quarterback, or you need to have just consistent first-round talent, first top 3 round talent throughout the roster.
I part of my job responsibility over the weekend was sit there and watch the draft closely and wait for Notre Dame names to be mentioned, and then I could update the pre-written follow. I don't know if people knew those. Some of those were pre-written. They might have figured that out.
Inside baseball right there.
But then I come along and write a separate file with what was said subsequently. But
how could you fall asleep? How could you fall asleep reading this and not fall asleep at any time during the draft?
Don't make any assumptions.
Well, we never knew when Shedeur was going. We had to stay awake for Shedeur.
Especially day 3. Don't make any assumptions. But there might have been like, did I hear Riley Mills?
Right? What?
But no, I was locked in. But I wrote this down. 20 of the first 46 picks in the draft this year, and again, Morrison was not taken by that point. Took him into the early 50s. 21 of the first 46 played in the college football playoff for somebody. And Ohio State had a ton, Georgia had a ton, Penn State had a ton. Yep. But then you go back 1 year because Texas was in both, and there was slightly different group last year. Michigan had a few this year. And so that was like another 5 guys. So you could make I think it was like, so that makes it something like 26 of the first 46 had played in the college football playoff one of the past 2 years. These were the NFL. That's what it takes. You want to be in a playoff every year, make sure you have those guys who really are first round and a half.
Because it's
top 50 talent. Now, Morrison was, if not hurt, he goes in the first round.
He's a first-round guy.
Watts, if he tests a little bit better, maybe if they don't go, maybe he does stuff at the combine, maybe that helps. I don't know. He should have been, it seems like, top 50, top 75. He has to wait almost to 100. But, yes, we've mentioned it already. The guys we expect. We've name dropped, and Leonard Moore's already on some of these. Couple of years out, could be a top 5 overall pick.
Don Schuler.
Don Schuler's gonna, could be that kind of first round guy. Jeremiah Love. We're talking like top 50 talent. Vili Amuasa, down the road. Don't want to put too much on him, but with the pedigree is there for Faremo.
Look how deep we've gotten. We haven't even said the one obvious name.
C.J. Carr.
Bryce Young.
C.J. Carr, given 3 or 4 years to build up a body of work, is going to be a first rounder.
Yep. But it's like because he mentioned the question as well as play calling too. The reason you're right is because that Jeremiah Smith catch at the end of the national championship game. The only way you don't stop that with a play. You stop that with another first-round talent. That's the only way you stop that catch from happening.
Shut down corner.
There was an amazing blitz pickup too on that, and that was shown during the draft. They kept saying because it was one, whether it was Judge, I think it was Henderson, Travion Henderson, who just stopped a blitz there. They sent the house. Yeah. They 3rd and 11. They rolled the dice. I've talked to other coaches about this from outside the program, and I've heard now a couple of times, no, that they did the right thing. There's nothing about it. Just great, every execution all around by Ohio State. Will Howard may be the future quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Throws his rainbow. Jeremiah Smith, #1 overall pick next year, just down the field with 5 yards of separation. No shame in that.
And that play was coming right at us too.
Yes,
and you could see it unfold
before the snap. You vouch for me here. Before the snap, I'm looking down there, and I said,
"You're like
Grays on Smith. Yep. Grays on Smith 1-on-1."
Because you had the binoculars.
I saw that.
And you just it was the whole thing unfolded, and he caught the ball. That's the other thing,
because he's going to be the #1 pick.
40 yards down the field, he had to catch that ball. There couldn't be any disruption because Gray's. And by the way, let's just say Christian Gray handled his spring availability with us for about 12 minutes beautifully. His eyes were clear. Yeah. He's not running from it. Nobody said, please don't ask about that play.
I don't think they said, please don't ask about that play in the locker room.
He did. No, we know. He had his time to recover from that.
So he was, how often, because I was not, I think I was on basketball at that point.
Yes.
He was asked right away about?
A couple minutes in gently, and then again, came back again, and then maybe even a third time. But he, I wrote about that, and I thought that he gave the kind of clear-eyed answers that you have to give. Now, the only aspect that, that doesn't necessarily check out is the idea that being asked about, why didn't he talk right after the game? Why did everybody jump to his defense? He said, he's asked an unprofessional question. The question, what was the question? It was, what was it like to guard Jeremiah Smith? That's not an unfair question.
No,
if that was what it was. I didn't hear it, but that's how Christian remembers it. But I'm just saying, given the benefit of time, 7 weeks, I think at that point, whatever it was, he went on and did what he had to do. Now, I don't think he goes into the year as damaged goods or mentally frail or anything like that, because he's not going to see that guy again until
you don't see that guy. That's one of the best. Yeah, he's considered, Jeremiah Smith's considered one of the best prospects coming into the
And
college
Smith
football.
had not done much in that game.
Yeah.
He hadn't.
Exactly.
That
It
was
was
his
a Buka.
first catch of the second half.
It
Yeah.
was.
So
And this is all you need to know about Christian Gray. Like, is he fragile mentally, or how's he going to react? Look at the way he got torched against USC, and then he basically cements the college football playoff home game with the pick and the pick six.
yeah.
So
Between series, he got it worked out.
he got
just
worked
by-
out. Like, he was fine. He's like he got roasted most of the day in the Coliseum,
Yes.
and then when somebody needed to make a play, and basically it was like almost the play of the year. Here's Christian Gray, and then Xavier Watts says, "I'll see you and raise you a couple more yards, and I'm going to the house too." So,
Yeah,
I have no concern about Christian
No,
Gray.
me
I agree.
Nope.
I
He'll
agree.
be
But I
fine.
think that overall, out there, and in college football fandom in general, non-Notre Dame people, the thought of that play is, you think of Elvis Patterson. Toast was his nickname,
Yes,
and
it
anytime
was.
Elvis Patterson showed up on an ESPN highlight, it would get mentioned that his nickname would become Toast. Christian Gray's nickname, I do not believe will ever become anything like that. I think he's gonna be fine. Fine. What's the next thing on this list?
I don't know.
Do you have the list?
Yeah, I do.
Like, how about you tell us, Mike?
Yeah, why don't you tell us?
Looks like there's some NFL draft talk.
Well, yeah, we've covered all that with.
I'd just like to clarify, I did not fall asleep at any point.
Morrison, Watts, Kaiser, Mills, Evans, Leonard were the drafted guys.
Like
Morrison, again, we mentioned probably a first round pick if he doesn't have the hip surgery. With Xavier Watts, maybe a little bit lower. Jack Kaiser was a surprise at 4.
Yeah.
I think he was a surprise.
I don't know if Maris Leofow went in round 3 a year ago, and then Bertrand was around 5. That seems about right. Kaiser's right in the middle there because of all the special teams value he's going to bring, and because he's such a finished product.
But also he's 31 years old that we talked about.
I thought it was 32.
They don't like to draft
Tyler
old
Shuck.
guys.
That's Tyler
It's
Shuck.
Tyler Shuck.
Riley Mills, great spot for him. That's a winning situation, and they're going to give him the time to recover. And he, it may not be this fall, but by year 2, he'll be a perennial disruptor for them. That's all he did here. So and a defensive-minded head coach. That's a good spot for him. And then this gives me not Mitchell Evans. I had to put him on my list of draft losers because Carolina is such a broken situation,
Tough.
And Tommy Tremble's already there, and in 4 years he's just getting 20 catches a year. So it's really hard to break through. Bryce Young, I think so. Their Bryce Young is a fine player, but it's just a screwed up situation. With the owner's a mess. So he just keeps. But Riley Leonard, this is my opportunity.
Oh, let's hear it.
Go.
This is
Let's
my
go.
opportunity. I've been
He's got the
waiting.
Riley Leonard hot take.
Should I do the
from
pie
Mike
bowl?
I'm
Bold.
waiting for this opportunity. I didn't say it today on the Colts radio network. Does a thing where they were just getting some comments to come up. I guess they do regular little hits, but I didn't want to make myself giggle. But the fact is, a lot of people knew him down there in Indy, and that was the place he wanted to go. But Al Golden, aforementioned Al Golden, had worked in Cincinnati with the new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. So, I don't know if you want to know. I don't know if Al has to be honest anymore of these things if he's over there in Cincinnati. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting possibility. Of course, Chris Watt knows who to call up here. Brian Mason knows who to call. He was here for the pro day. Steichen and Rivers. But this is the thing. Al Golden also worked and loved in Detroit working with Jim Bob Cooter. And Jim Bob Cooter is the offensive coordinator. And Jim Bob Cooter is going to get to work with Riley Leonard, teach him the finer points of the game, and I just think that's beautiful.
Riley Leonard's got a chance.
He's not this year.
Not this year.
Let these guys just kick it around for a year.
Well,
Whatever.
is Anthony? Can you count on Anthony Richardson for more than 4 starts in a row? You can't.
That's even a high number right there.
Daniel Jones, you talk about a guy who is mentally scarred by the New York experience.
Seeing ghosts. Oh, no, that was Zach Wilson. Different
Yeah,
New York
it's kind of contemporaries. Give him a year, and whatever's in there, I think that coaching situation and that patience, even the fact they'll be in a dome for half of his games, these things will help if you got a little question about your downfield passing.
He'll always be in a dome because they don't know how to open the roof down there. I have no idea how to open the roof.
He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. And that's good. So he was one of the draft winners.
Some of the free agents that signed: Howard Cross with the Cincinnati Bengals with L. Golden.
That's outstanding. Yeah.
Bo Collins with the New York Giants. Devin Ford back with Dylan McCullough with the Las Vegas Raiders. Mitch Jeter, Minnesota Vikings. Jordan Clark with the Jets, 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 and R.J. Oben with the Kansas City Chiefs. Any of those guys?
Max Hurleman with the Steelers. I'm calling it. He's going to make the whatever they call the extra guys. He's going to hang
Taxi squad.
Max is going to make that developmental team. He's going to, and he'll be Edelman-esque at some point. I don't know what he can do. Whatever's in there, he'll get it out. But that's a good spot for him. There's somebody else I thought too.
I think I'm missing somebody.
Yeah.
Jaden Harrison?
We're still waiting. No, nothing on Jaden Harrison or Chris Mitchell
too.
Or Rod Hurd II. Rod Hurd II comes from he was doing good things at Northwestern, and that's kind of the cautionary tale when you try to level up in terms of the talent around you. Sometimes you're going to get bypassed, and your dreams go.
He was bypassed.
Oh, easily.
So Notre Dame now 538 draft picks in NFL history. Jackson, can you name them?
I think I can.
We're going 2 hours on this podcast.
All right, let's get this started.
No, we're not. Okay, Mike doesn't have the sheet, so
what sheet are you talking about?
The sheet that you freaking fell asleep about.
No, I have the sheet. I have it. I'm looking at it, but
for the last 6 years, NFL or Notre Dame, no first-round picks for the last 6 years. Who were the 2 first-round picks?
Kyle Hamilton, Joe Alt.
There you go.
I already knew that. I wrote that. I wrote that a couple days ago. That's that is what we don't have is context on like this period of 6 years. How does that match up? But that's a little surprising considering all the winning that's been going on here. And I think there's been maybe an NFL scouting discounting of how they've been winning here, and that maybe stuck in a different regime mentally, this idea that some of these guys aren't worthy of one of those. Shamar Stewart, for instance, just because we watched him for a whole game down Texas A&M, and for Al Golden to be part of the Bengals group, and it's at some point he's got to sign off on that. It can't be all the scouts, but a guy with very limited production in his career just should have gotten to the quarterback every play. Couldn't beat Anthony Knapp.
Yeah,
could not beat him.
He was just invisible that.
So I found it. I was glad that Cross got to Al, but I was surprised. I thought he would grab a guy here or there, but they maybe it's a thing where when you coach at Notre Dame or you're around the guys who beat you with their brains as much as their brawn, and then you get a chance to have a guy who's like, oh, he should be better. It's all there. Look at the testing numbers.
Look at the wingspan.
Production should matter.
Hand size.
Hand size.
Huh? How about the hand size?
Joe
Reach
Burrow
definitely matters.
Will Campbell.
But then
Campbell.
What about them? That's right.
Dinosaur arms.
So that's not as bad as Kenny Pickett's situation. But I would say that production should matter, and it always jumps out. I guess it's timeless with the draft where you're just like, why are they picking these people who've proven to disappoint? Why are they given yet another chance to disappoint? At a much higher 4-year contract figure or 5 years than these other guys who we've seen do it repeatedly. And it's one of the mysteries of the draft.
We'll get out of here on this. Notre Dame football schedule 2025. Times have not been released except for the August 31st game at Hard Rock Stadium, Miami. That game will start at 7:30 Sunday night, Labor Day weekend, ABC. Then the home schedule kicks in. This is like the easiest question. I don't even know why I'm going to ask it. Your 2 choices for night games at Notre Dame Stadium this year will be, Jackson.
My 2 choices?
Yeah. What are the 2 night games that are yet to be, that are TBA but will be announced eventually?
USC. And you know what? Let's be fun. Let's do Boise State.
Mike?
I haven't looked at the rest of the country, but you got to think Texas A&M's
probably
a night game.
I'm going A&M and USC.
And USC, yeah.
How about Syracuse? Let's make that a night game. Steve Angeli's return.
It's not outrageous because Syracuse they're on the improve.
Yeah.
They are on the improve. No, they are.
Fran Brown, Temple guy.
Fran Brown. I was stunned that they'd only. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's 2. Last year was just their second bowl season. in the last quarter century.
Which is crazy because Syracuse, they've had like so many great starts and just always fall apart at the end.
Yeah. So I think they've got something going there. Although they did lose a guy, their key receiver, due to the NIL situation.
Yes, he wanted more money.
But Fan Brown talked about it publicly. Like, I'm not paying it like that.
He's paying him enough.
So that, he must be fun to cover. But those are. But I think those are the two. A&M and USC are the leaders in the clubhouse.
Yeah, there's no way the November 22nd game against Syracuse is a night game because I walked around the concourse in Notre Dame Stadium before that Indiana game. What was the date of that? December 20th?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it was cold out there.
Yeah.
It was cold. Yeah, that's great that it was the first college football playoff game in history, in school history, and in college football history. But you had to be a hardy soul to be out there in Notre Dame Stadium that night on December 20th against IU.
Or post-game, trying to do a stand-up outside for a little bit. You're lucky you missed that one, Tom.
Where was I?
You said you didn't want to do it.
Wait, I did?
I don't know. I did it with Sabrina.
Come on. You said we weren't doing it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. That's a pot of gold. Mike Berardino, Jackson Neill, Tom Noie. Maybe we'll be back in the summertime. If not, have a great summer. We'll see you guys in August.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.